Okay, so we're going to talk about cybersecurity. It is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we are going to go over some of the things that we're seeing in the cybersecurity world to make sure that you can keep your business safe. And again, not let hackers haunt your business. So, uh, right off the bat, you've got me, a wonderful headshot taken by Kelsey Adams. Uh, I've been doing this over 15 years. I think this is a bit of an older slide. I'm more in like the 20 years, but don't tell everybody. It kind of ages me a little bit. Uh, a lot of my experience, a lot of my expertise comes in terms of security, compliancy, and then IT infrastructure. I run a team of what I like to call highly sophisticated nerds here in the west side of McHenry. And we just specialize in business computer systems and cybersecurity. So let's dive right in. What are the top five things that are affecting your business in 2025 going into 2026? If you've attended any of my conferences or any of my talks in the past, I always kind of start with number one being phishing and social engineering. Well, it's still the number one. However, it's changing a little bit because we have AI that's in there. And I'm going to go over some of that a little bit later on to kind of how you can find some of these AI powered phishing campaigns. Ransomware is still out there, but now the added benefits, if you call it a benefit, of double extortion. And that's really where they hit you twice. You pay the ransom, and then they're like, "Oh, by the way, we have a copy of all your data. So pay us again, or we're going to basically leak all this data out." Supply chain slash third party. We're not going to talk about this one too much, but know that it is a thing out there, like third party applications that are actually being breached. Credential theft and identity exploits. We're going to talk a little bit about this one today. And then state sponsored espionage. You know, we hear about these things in the news. I'm probably not going to talk a ton about them, but if you'd like to know more, by all means, I will sit down and have a meeting with anybody here. I love coffee. If you were on here earlier, you probably saw me grab my pumpkin cream cold brew. So yeah, I can talk your ear off. I could talk about cybersecurity for hours. Okay. Some of the emerging risk. These are the things that are on our radar as cybersecurity people, as IT people, to really kind of understand what's coming up, so then we can actually help protect our companies that we work with. The quantum computers. It sounds like, oh my gosh, this is state of the art. It's been emerging for a long time. And the things that are happening, the quantum computers are basically, in a lot of ways, just a supercomputer that are out there. But they have some ways that they can break encryption very simply. In order to get one of these quantum computers, there's not very many out there, quantum servers, however you want to refer to them. There's not very many out there. But if they're in the wrong hands, it could be a problem. And some of the things that we're seeing is they're just trying to harvest data now so then they can decrypt it later on. So these are the things that we're starting to see in the market, things that we're starting to try to make sure we're protecting. Shadow AI. This is really using some of those AI tools for bad. And this is where regulatory and anything legal that we can kind of put into place to kind of keep some of these AI pieces out of the main market, so the bad guys can't use them. Those are the types of things that we're starting to look at. And then IoT. These are your Alexas. These are your devices. These things at your home. Um, they're on the rise. Like, how many people probably in the room right now or on this webinar have some sort of um, IoT device that's in their house, in their office, and these are actually vulnerable as well. We need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves from these devices because they are being breached. So,
Eric, what's an IoT?
Internet of Things. So, think of these as just smart devices, whether it's like a smart switch, if it's a plug-in device that just connects to the internet, right?
Like
Internet
a
of
like a
Things.
Nest of some sort, like a Nest thermostat.
100%. Yeah. If you have like the first generation Nest, Google's actually pretty good about saying, hey, we're going to sunset these because they're vulnerable and we don't want to patch them anymore. So they just got rid of a bunch. And they're kind of forcing you to upgrade, which is good. All right. So those are some of the emerging risks. Some of the things that are kind of new and exciting, not really, but they're new and kind of scary are deepfakes. Deepfakes are something that I always like to bring up. Um, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is a really big word. What does this even mean? Uh, well, a deepfake, you probably have seen if you're a Snapchat user where you can overlay another face on top of your own. And it's fun, right? Fun and exciting. Well, deepfakes are maybe even a little bit different for an attacker. They can overlay a human's face over their own and make it seem like they are somebody else. They can also use voice uh, emulators that actually makes their voice sound like whomever it is. So you probably heard on the news of people getting phone calls, like grandparents getting phone calls from grandkids that are like, "Oh, I'm stuck in this country. Please wire me some money." And they did that. And this is sometimes done by deepfakes. So how do you protect yourself from a deepfake? You really have to scrutinize anything nowadays if it's coming over the phone, a webinar, and anything. You need to actually look at it because if you look hard enough, you should be able to see that there is an overlay. It's That's current state. Over time, these are going to become better and better. I tell people, no matter what, person to person is going to be your best way to make sure that if somebody's changing their accounting information, that you're not getting a deep fake in the middle here. So if you actually have a person to person interaction to make sure that you're not changing something on that causes a security risk, that'd be probably the best. Also having code words for my family. We actually have a code word. If you want to pick my daughter up from school, you have to know how to tell her that you're there to pick her up from me. And there may or may not be a couple of swear words because who actually swears at a 13-year-old girl? That's kind of where we're at nowadays. You just have to make sure that you're being safe in a lot of different ways. Um,
Oh, true, Eric. I was actually just saying to my parents, like, I feel like I was like the older generation, like me getting your knowledge and the things you teach us has actually, I'm like, I'm going to be an old person and never get hacked. And now I'm like, okay, maybe I might.
Yeah, as the technology advances, it's becoming trickier and trickier. The other thing to do is, and I talk about this later on, but it's kind of like give you a little bit here too. Um, if somebody calls you and it's maybe a number you don't know, and they're saying there's maybe the CEO of your company, and you're trying to make sure that you're making a wire transfer. If you do wire transfers, uh, hang up from that initial call. Call them on a known good number. That at least helps you have some of that reassurance that who you're talking to is actually that person. If it's a call from the bank, hang up. Call the bank directly. Call the known good number that you have to make sure that that's all legitimate because they can mask phone numbers nowadays. But if you call it back, generally it's a pretty good indication that it's legitimate because they haven't totally taken over the number. But scrutinize everything. That's how we have to be nowadays. Um, all right, so there are chatbots that are also out there. You go to a website and you start interacting with a chatbot. Let's say you're looking for antivirus software. I actually ran into this one not too long ago with a new customer. They went to a website, looked like they were interacting with a cybersecurity company. The chatbot was like, "Oh, let's sign you up for antivirus, and then download it on your workstation." After they realized that they might have gotten scammed, they called us and we were like, oh, great. We get to uninstall this super sketchy software that's on here that you paid way too much for. Um, some of these chatbots or some of the applications that they try to put on your workstation, all they're there to do is to actually steal your information. So not a great thing. When in doubt, scrutinize it. Make sure you're going to a reputable source, or ask me. Like I said, I have a problem with coffee. I will literally have a coffee with you and basically be like, "Yeah, don't do that. Do this." All those things. So there's also some new things that are out there with malware viruses, if you will, that they're learning. They're using AI to actually hide themselves from antivirus software. So it becomes harder and harder for the antivirus, traditional antivirus, to actually find them. Because what they used to do, antivirus software would just search through your computer all the time and just look for some of these known files, some of these known things that they're like, oh, that's bad. But if now that's changing because of AI, it's harder for them to catch. There are certain types of software or antivirus software that I'll get into maybe a little bit later here that can help you catch those things. But yeah, you just have to know that AI is kind of changing some things and it's making things more complicated. And you got to keep those people that are trying to haunt your business out. Okay. The good AI chatbots can also be vulnerable. Um, there was a thing published, a problem with Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI bot, that attackers found that they could actually email you and get to your Copilot. So there was actually a bug found, and a software vendor actually was the one that identified it. Like, hey, this is potentially being used. So Microsoft had to plug that. Just know that these things, as they're emerging, as they're becoming a thing, you want to make sure you're spending the time to actually protect them within your organization, especially if you're going to start using them. If you're using Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT, you have to really kind of protect your business and your business interests to make sure that they're not being exploited, because they can be tricked. Lots of times if you've got them out there, they can try to attackers can try to get your private information and that it's learned about you and actually exploit that. So
I know, I don't know if it was actually through AI, but recently you guys had come across a situation with like getting text messages with links and things like that. And so it was really great that Eric and his team were in front of that they could get out to the public just certain knowledge. And so if you're not following their social medias and just getting in connection, having coffee with Eric, it's always wonderful to feel like I know the knowledge first over everybody else, because when things like this happens where hackers come in and get involved, it's always great to feel like, okay, I feel safe because you guys are one step ahead of it always.
oh yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of phone calls where I was like, "Ooh, this is going out to all my customers. Let me call Kelsey really quick and just basically be like, hey, you need to do this and tell Molly and everybody else, let's get this taken care of." And we don't even do their IT. We're just that awesome. Okay, so there's also ways that AI is actually helping defend us. Okay. There's a lot of these software companies. If you're using, and I'm going to throw a bunch of like alphabet stew at you, if you're using an MDR and XDR, which is kind of um, these are software types that actually help protect you in different ways. One protects your like your Windows device, or if you're using a Mac, it actually will help just kind of that's an MDR. It's kind of like an antivirus. It's a little different. I'll get over that. I'll go over that too. But if you're using any of those, a lot of these companies are actually using AI to help defend you, because they can actually find threats, new emerging threats faster because there's so much data that they're kind of sifting through. But an XDR, that's looking at just your like your Microsoft or your Google login in the cloud. And it starts to look at if you're logging in from strange new locations. Let's say you're a US based nonprofit and suddenly you have a login from China or one of our top threat company or countries. So Russia, maybe you have people logging in just randomly from these countries. XDR uses AI to help them find that to lock your accounts. Um, it also helps security teams be able to search through all of your data to make it plain language. Because if you ever look at what we see in terms of logs, sometimes sifting through it is not the simplest because you're looking for different segments. AI can scan it really quick and say, "Oh, here's the problem right here." Um, it also, a lot of people are starting to use it to identify things that have been written by AI, or if it's like a AI website, whatever it may be. If that website is like designed to trick you, maybe it looks like a Microsoft. There's a lot of companies that are using AI to actually help you like scrutinize things, the fake messages, or if your kids are writing papers, right? If they're writing papers 100% written by AI, teachers are actually using some similar technologies here where they're actually able to take the entire paper, put it in here, and it'll tell them how much is written by AI. Super cool, but it's helping defend us, right? So for every good, there's bad, right? And so that's kind of where AI is for us. Um, we tend to get a lot of questions about how do I find these fake profiles, or how do we find things on social media? And I'm using Facebook as the example here because we probably have all had somebody in our life, whether that's grandparents, parents, person that we talked to years ago, like suddenly they're sending you messages on social media or like posting a bunch of stuff for sale. Lots of these are fake profiles, and you gotta, or they've taken over your profile. First thing I want you all to do, make sure on all of your social media, I want you to make sure that your multi-factor authentication or two-step authentication is set up. Okay. This is huge. I tell people if it's available, you need to have it set up. That includes your email, your bank accounts, all your social media. If you're a small business or even a large business and you have somebody from your organization managing your Facebook page for your business, you need to make sure that they have correct authentication set up for their accounts, because if they get breached, suddenly they could be changing everything on your business page. That becomes a nightmare. And from anybody that's had something happen with their Facebook page, whether that be personal or corporate page that's being managed by somebody else, Facebook, Meta, doesn't really care. Like, it's a free product. You could put in a ticket with with Meta, and they're just like, that sucks. And you're just like, oh, okay. If you start paying Meta for things, they actually tend to care about you a little bit more. They're like, oh, they're paying us, so maybe we should actually help them. But just know, it's free lunch, right? You can't really complain about free lunch. It's a free product. There's a payment. It's your data. Surprise. But anyways, you have to scrutinize any profile that you run into nowadays. You need to make sure if they're messaging you, you just want to make sure if there's any links embedded in there, just don't click on them. Just leave them alone. Uh, Call the person. If you haven't talked to them for years, why are they actually even, contacting you through Facebook or social media? So scrutinize everything, especially on social media. Look at their pages. Did they make a bunch of recent changes? Are they posting everywhere? These are the things that you guys have to start looking for to make sure that it's legitimate. Treat these no different than getting a random text from a random person in the middle of the night. All right, so
I mean, I text in the middle of the night, Eric. Mine are always real.
I know, but I have ways to figure out if it's actually Kelsey Adams at the chamber. Like, is is there one or two misspelled words?
Always two.
All right, so we're going to do a quick phishing training. Okay. We talked about this being like that top one. Still, it's always out there. I know a lot of people ask me questions about like, hey, how do I spot those bad emails? I promise everybody on here. I'm not going to make it boring. I'm going to try to make it fun. So like Rob, I see you on there. Just don't fall asleep on me. All right. I will make sure that this is a relatively simple, easy to follow training on some of the ways that they are trying to fish you. All right. So I say fishing, right? Um, it's not like casting, and going actually fishing. It's basically an email blast of tons of emails, right? We've probably have all run into a phished email. What we have to start looking at if it's a suspicious sender, and uh, like 90% of the calls that we get about a phished email is the name is correct. Maybe it's the CEO of the company, but the actual email address, which is next to it usually, depending on which platform you're using. Let's say it's let's go use Kelsey. It's Kelsey Adams, but then it's Boo Boo Kitty 13 at Yahoo. Okay, just made that up. I don't know why. Sorry, Kelsey.
Boo Boo
If
Kitty
that's
is actually my email, so I'm really surprised you got
oh,
that right.
dang it. Okay, maybe that one's legitimate.
I'm kidding, it's not.
Yeah, I know. So you have to start looking at that email address to make sure it makes sense. Because if it's like your CEO sending you an email, and it's the same name, but the email address is weird, that's your first hint, right? Um, Almost always the wording on these emails make it seem urgent or scary. This is Chase Bank, and your accounts have all been frozen. Please call us or click this link to unlock. That's your second hint. Grammatical errors or grammatical mistakes. Whether this is um, like their improper grammar, things that we don't actually talk in a certain way. It's like maybe a bit more robotic. A lot of these countries are non-English speaking, so you will get some of those things that are just like, "Ooh, we don't say it that way," because they'll put like verbs in the wrong places. So spelling mistakes, I'm the worst at this. I actually went to a Rockford public school. Don't tell everybody, because don't claim it all the time. So I'm not the best at some of these spelling mistakes, and Kelsey and I kind of get along in that way because I could just send her gibberish, she sends me back gibberish. Generic greetings. Um, the funnest one for me lately is AI. All of AI's emails pretty much is, I hope this email finds you well. Okay. That's your okay, that this is a scam, right? Or this person's using AI fully. Also, unexpected attachments or links. It's like, oh, click here. It might be one of those things. Yeah, these are your common signs. Start at the top, just kind of move your way down and start to look at the email. And there are some other ways to do it as well, depending on if you have a business or you're talking more like a personal side. Da-da-da-da. All right. So, how do you avoid these? Really verify the sender. If you've got an email from Chase Bank about your account and it is like, hey, we blocked your account, blah, 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 don't interact with that email. Go directly to the source. Go directly to Chase Bank, log in through your known website. Don't interact with the email. Just delete the email and just go directly to the website or call the bank. Easiest thing. There's always on the back of your debit cards, on the back of your credit cards, there's always a number. You just give them a call. That's a known good number. Then you can verify anything that they're saying. You don't have to interact with the email at all. Also, look at what time it was sent. Um, if you've got an email from a municipality or a government or something in the middle of the night, I can almost guarantee you it's fake. Okay. Most governments don't work in the middle of the night. I'm friends with a whole bunch of government employees. Guess what? It's the end of the day. They don't work at night. So uh, that's a funny example, but truly, if you've gotten an email in the middle of the night, you want to start to scrutinize it because this attacker might be on a different time zone. So then they're sending stuff in the middle of the night because that's middle of the day for them. If you want to hover over links, that's another way to look and scrutinize the message. And I'll show you some link examples in the next slide. I hate attachments. If you're going to actually click on an attachment or interact with an attachment, and you're a business, I tend to recommend make sure that you have a good filter or a good there's email filtering software that actually rewrites anything that you've received. So what it does is it takes the original document and just kind of scrubs it, puts it onto a new form, so you know it's clean. Um, some other things, I know I mentioned this earlier, enable multi-factor authentication. I can't say that enough. If you've clicked on a link and it's asked you for a username and password, MFA, multi-factor, is probably one of the only ways that you're going to actually protect yourself, protect your account. Um, and most importantly, always delete that email. Delete it, go to the source. If you got an email from Kelsey Adams in the middle of the night, that's a weird email address, you could email her a separate email directly to her or call her. Call the number that you have for Kelsey Adams. Okay. Um,
That
all
was a
right.
big
So,
thing that just learning that I think has been the biggest thing. That and checking the last of the email. I think those two things have just saved me so many times. Just because um I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. Malika had written like that they're just getting smarter now because they're learning everything that
mhm.
they're still not smart enough for us. So just looking at multiple avenues is so important. So I'm glad you brought up multiple different avenues to look at.
Yeah. And like I bring this up for URLs, so websites. And this is my example. I try to make it as easy as possible for you to kind of look at. So that way we can start to understand if they're trying to point you towards a website or the domain is maybe a little bit so like uh, E Vicencio at and let's say the example here where it's misspelled, Excesion is actually misspelled in that bottom example. A lot of attackers are doing that now. They're actually buying domains that are look very similar to like Microsoft, Google, and they're actually using that to try to trick you, right? It's misspelled, but it's hard to see that it's misspelled. Um, there's other attacks where like if it's a fake site like Excesion accounting, that's not actually our domain, right? They would buy that domain space and then try to send emails out as us, or like ecc.easyION.com, right? That's a little bit different than ours, but our official site is excesion.com. But you also have to pay attention if you're getting a secure versus unsecure site. I tend to tell people nowadays you're seeing it a little bit less because if you're using Google Chrome, which is again one of those free lunch products, um, they tend to point out if you're not going to a secure site, there might be some privacy warnings there that you have to go by. If you're going to a website, it's not secure with that little HTTPS, and then it gives you like the little lock sign on your browser, or you don't get any certificate of warnings or anything like that. Those are some of the things that you have to be watch out for with URLs. But probably the most common one that we're seeing nowadays is really just the misspelling and making it look like it's actually coming from a legit site or a legit source when it's really not. Okay. Um, all right. So again, what you do with these emails, don't click or respond to them. If you're going to respond to the individual, respond outside of the actual email because we probably have all gotten a scam email from somebody that we know that had their account breached. And then they're like, oh, please pay this invoice. And you're just like, well, what is this? Right. If you respond to that, most of the attackers just have rules to delete those responses. So the person never actually ever will see it. If you respond to them directly, but with a different subject, lots of times the rule won't catch it coming back. If you have IT, or even if you don't have IT, you can actually mark them as spam. Most of those, or mark the sender as spam. Those will actually help you keep them out of your inbox. And most importantly, delete these messages. Delete them and then delete them from your deleted folder. Because if you use any of the AI that's built in, whether that be Gemini, Copilot, if they have access to your email, like any of your AI, it may actually come back to you. Where if you're doing a search Or you could potentially like in the future be looking at your email, like trying to remember what was happening, and you do a search on that person's name, and then suddenly that shows up, and you click on it accidentally. Like I've seen that happen as well.
Random question. What if someone
Sure.
forwards you an email? So, like, I work with a couple businesses, and sometimes they'll forward it to me and be like, "Hey, is this fake or real?" Like, obviously, if I know it's fake, I'm not going to click anything. But like, is there anything with that, or screenshotting it and sending it that way to the person to confirm? Just, I'm sure not everybody has those types of situations, but
Right.
unfortunately, I come across that sometimes where people think it is, and so they forward it to see if like, is this a real message?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's a good question. There are some resources out there that we use quite a bit. So we will actually take like the entire URL and put it into a product called Virus Total and see kind of if it pops anything. My filter is very aggressive here, as it should be. So if you were to forward me something, the odds are my filter would actually be like, Kelsey's been compromised, and probably put you on a bit of a watch list for us. Um, but if you're getting an email that's they want you to like confirm the validity of that email, um, my first response to that is go back to what I originally said. Verify the sender. And when in doubt, go to the source. That's going to save you so much time and headache. Like you could investigate it all you want, but if you go to their source and just verify it that way, you're going to probably circumvent that whole portion of like your mind of, oh, I need to make sure that this email's valid. Just go to the source. You'll be good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I have to talk a little bit about the AI written phishing emails. We talked about that a little bit. There are times where you get that unusual grammar, repetitive phrasing. Oh my gosh. If you read enough AI generated emails like I have, man, you start to pick up on some phrases that it always uses. So kindly, best regards, attention to this matter. I hope this message finds you well. These are things that I look at, and I've run into a few people that actually use like kindly or attention to this matter in their actual emails before AI was a thing. So I get it, but you'll start to pick up on these now. Now that I've pointed them out, like start looking for it because you're going to probably find employees or people in your organization that are using these words and phrases, and you're just like, oh, you're using AI. Guess what? They use AI, stoking attackers. Okay. These are the things that we have to start to look for so that way you can identify them to help you keep from being breached in any way. Um, Inconsistent tone or style. I find that AI is just way too perfect. And that's one of the things that I look for. I look for if it's absolutely, perfectly written, no like weird hyphens, places. Yeah, yeah, those are the things. I look for mistakes now because AI is just going to be 100% perfect in most scenarios or very generic. Oh, 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 there we go. So let's say you clicked on something. Let's say Kelsey gets an email um, from Kathy on this awesome webinar of ours, and Kelsey's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to click on it, and it pops up, and it's asking for your username and password, and you enter it. What are you going to do?" Most people don't take the time to think about these things. Like, hey, what should I do if I accidentally clicked on an email? First thing, if you have IT, contact them. 100%. If you don't have IT, you will probably want to go to number 4, change your password. And for those of you on the call that use the same password for everything, one, don't do that. You need to start making unique passwords for each website, each thing that you go to, unique. Doesn't have to be wholly unique. You can reuse part of it and then just add dash something on the end. Okay, that makes them unique. Um, you might want to consider changing your username. depending on where you entered it. So places like Microsoft, that becomes kind of a pain if you've ever had somebody or somebody's entered in username and password. Uh, the attackers sell that information. They're going to keep trying your username and password. They might actually lock your account because they know your username, which is usually just your email address. Also, make sure you're turning on your multi-factor authentication. Make sure it's on. I can't say that enough. I'm going to probably say it probably 5 more times in this presentation alone. Um,
Someone told me just to turn your computer off.
I mean, not if you've entered information. You need to act fast, Kelsey, real fast, because within
That's
a
me
couple of
being
minutes,
fast, shutting it down.
if you've clicked on a link and something started happening, yeah, I mean, maybe. But if you have cyber insurance, if you're a company that has cyber insurance, you probably shouldn't turn it off because your cyber insurance company is going to tell you got to leave it on.
Oh, good to know.
Um,
Cool.
yeah. So if you have IT, contact them. Above, like I always tell people nowadays, fraud alerting is actually really good. They can monitor some of your email accounts. I've got like 4 or 5 companies that I like. Um, and then if you are an organization, if you can turn on web content filtering, that's something that can also kind of save you a little bit before you actually could even get to these pages that would have you enter your username and password. Okay. Um, I like to talk about these just because if you're a business and you have remote workers, you got to start thinking about these things realistically. If they have a home network, how strong is that home network? What devices are on there that are interacting with your device? Um, the credential theft or multi-factor fatigue because they're not at your organization. If they lost their credentials to somebody, if they've entered username and password, it's very possible that they wouldn't report it because they're at home, right? Because they don't have IT readily accessible. They're just kind of complacent a bit, potentially, by working remote. Um, the physical security of the device. We've had companies lose laptops, um, lose desktops from people's houses. I don't even know how that happens. Somebody breaks in. So you have to start watching for these, and then also a newer thing: insider risk and data leakage. Right there's people getting paid to go work for an organization and then just leak the data out, and they get paid per whatever credential, whatever. If they work in medical space, losing all that information on accident, they're getting paid to do so. So it's kind of a super awkward time that we're in. There's also fake employees that get hired. I work with a guy over at Mandiant Security, which is a very large cybersecurity firm, and they actually had an incident where a company hired an individual overseas to do a bunch of work and shipped them the laptop. And Mandiant was brought in because they couldn't prove that that laptop was being used by that individual. And they come to find out it was being used by 4 individuals doing the exact same work for the company. Was it actually the cybersecurity problem? Not really, but you got to scrutinize these things. In today's day and age, like it's changing. So, some of your top investments that I would recommend for you. Uh, I think I even said this just a second ago. Multi-factor authentication. Whether that be the standard one or one that you're paying for, there are companies out there. We use a product called Duo. It's a Cisco product. It's really good. Um, invest in some employee awareness or phishing simulation software. Uh, these are you all are sitting in on this training. This is where you train everybody else. Everybody else is getting that exact same information, but then also like sending them simulated phishing. This is like it looks like exactly how the attackers send it. And I mean, we do this for almost all of our customers. Um, if you are a company and you don't have somebody managing your patching or your vulnerability, like you got to do this to keep those hackers out so they're not haunting you, right? Identity and access management and conditional access. I group these all together. This is like your O365, your Microsoft accounts, your Google accounts, like making sure that you have really good controls on all of those pieces. Probably the most most important for you. And if you're not going to invest in any of those other pieces, make sure you have good backups. Always good backups. Attacker gets in, they're going to just wreak havoc. You want to make sure you can restore yourself. I talked about endpoint detection and response, EDR, and also managed threat response. Like these are new terms that are out there in the cybersecurity world. Just think of these as the new type of antivirus that's out there. Okay. It's not really antivirus. Really, what it's doing is it's monitoring your computer for doing things that are weird. Because a lot of these learn how you work and they'll kind of point it out to whomever, whether that be we use Huntress, which is our MDR. Love them. They will actually contact us if there's a problem and or lock people out before it becomes a problem for everybody. Okay. Some of your other top investments: email security and advanced threat prevention protection. I apologize. What this does, and I mentioned this earlier, um, it actually is a layer before you can see your emails. It's looking at the email, making sure that all the links are legitimate. If there's an attachment, that the attachment's safe, or if the person sending you the email is sketchy. A lot of these, the email security and the advanced threat protection, that can actually catch that to keep it out of your inbox. It's worth the couple dollars per user per month that it would cost. If you are a company that has a lot of um, private information, whether that's a compliancy thing, investing in DLP, data loss prevention, and some cloud security, really going to save you a ton of money on the back end. If you don't have a firewall in your organization, or don't know anything about the firewall in your organization, I highly recommend that become like the forefront of maybe 2026. Get that thing updated. There, you can't just like buy one and put it in the closet and hope it's keeping you secure forever now, because that's just not how IT works. If you have employees working remotely, secure that remote access. I still run into things that every day people will be like, "Oh, come look at our organization," and I run into this, unsecure remote access, and I'm just like, "Oh, ooh, that's not fun." And then, like we talked about, incident response planning, right? What happens when you enter in that information? What happens if the entire network's down? How are you making sure that your organization can still operate? How that you can still operate without certain pieces? That's your response planning. Whether that's a cyber event, a weather event, it doesn't matter. Just spend the time doing this. I think it's really important for an organization. And if you don't have cyber insurance, might want to consider investing in it. Okay. Cyber insurance is actually a little bit more reasonable than you would think. So yeah, make sure, because if you don't have cyber insurance and you need somebody to restore your entire network, it's very possible you're going to be spending, $500,000 easy. And it all just depends on where you're at, how big your organization is. And for $1 million policy, it's not going to be as bad as you would imagine.